Hey, so happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. I'm an American who has lived here in the UK and Britain for, it seems like almost 20 years. Not quite, but getting there. My whole adult life, just about. A few years in France as well, but mostly in Britain. And I was asked if I thought the American independence was justifiable. The War of Independence was justifiable. And having heard both sides of it quite a few times, I think it was. And here is why. If, for example, you're one of my neighbors, just a good Englishman, and you got a letter in the mail from Germany, and it said the Parliament of Germany would like to tax you. Maybe not very much, maybe just 20 euros. You would have thought there's been some mistake. The Parliament there in Germany obviously made a mistake sending you, the German Parliament, sending you, an Englishman living in England, this tax bill. You would have torn it up and thought it was just a mistake. Well, this is pretty much what the American colonists thought when all of a sudden they were being taxed by the British Parliament. They had their own parliaments. Virginia had its parliament, and all the different colonies had their own parliaments. And all of a sudden, the British Parliament was taxing the American colonists. Well, where did that come from? Did they have the right to do that? Well, no, they didn't. You see, when the colonies were first established, their contract was with the king. They were submitted to the king, and he was supposed to govern them and rule over them and protect them, and he allowed them to establish their own parliaments for legislative purposes. But then Britain underwent this thing called the Glorious Revolution, in which the Parliament arose and took certain prerogatives away from the king that was supposed to be only part of the king, belonged to the king. Well, time went on. Americans didn't think much about it. That was just something going back in the home country. But after a number of years, the British Parliament decided then to start taxing the colonists, which the parliaments of the colonies did not recognize they had authority to do so. The Parliament of Britain has the right to tax people in Britain, just like the Parliament of Virginia has the right to tax people in Virginia. The colonists, their agreement was not with the Parliament, it was with the King. So the War of Independence was not a revolutionary so much war as a counter-revolutionary war. And it was not the colonists who declared war, they just declared their independence. When Parliament started sending them these tax bills, they went to the king, King George. You need to protect us from these crazy parliamentarians. They don't have the right to do this. This was not in the original agreement. We had a deal. But King George did not stand up for the colonists and did not protect the colonists from the Parliament of Great Britain. And when the king failed to do his job in protecting the colonists from the British Parliament, the deal was declared null and void. On July 4th, 1776, they declared their independence. They did not declare war. They simply declared they were independent, that they were no longer subservient to the King of England, because he had broken his end of the deal. It was then Britain that declared war on the colonies, not the other way around. So in that sense, the colonists were not the liberals, they were the conservatives. They were the counter-revolutionaries. They were going backwards to the original agreement, to the original constitution. They were subservient to the king, not to the parliament. That's why it was so different from France. That was very much a left-wing revolution, whereas the British one was very much conservative in nature. And so I think the Americans were within a moral justification for declaring their independence.